So ESIM 2, the questions maybe have come up from that. I'll start with from the group is with the recipe as you talk about is the idea of being able to blend most of the types of plastics and other feedstocks. You don't have to do a lot of sorting.
Exactly. So the recipe is talking about do not need to sort anything up front. So you can just dump it as is, and the process will deal with it accordingly.
And then
Why?
if any any metals,
Yeah, we
or
separated the technology according to the recipe into two parts: the preparation and the reaction. So, which is thermal reaction. So don't judge on it as a chemical reaction. It's a thermal reaction. So we remove the moisture at the up front, and then we feed it. So when you remove the moisture, you don't care what's going on as long as it has carbon atom. If it doesn't have carbon atom, nothing will happen. It will come out as is, like glass metal.
Right.
You will see it with the graphite coming out.
So it's not going to process it, but it's not the end of the world if some of it ends up in the hoppers.
You pick it up with a magnet.
Yeah.
Or if you have an aluminum, you pick it up with eddy current technology, or a photocell for glass. So take it.
Another question in terms of quality, we will supply some test results for everybody, but in terms of processing mostly plastics and that, you can pretty much create a drop-in fuel. It's not something that has to be further refined to be used, which we'll show today.
As is, you can use it as is wherever you use diesel.
Now, if you're putting in, say, MSW or various wastes, obviously you're not getting as quality a product. So
Quality-wise, it will remain the same. Quantity-wise, it is different.
Okay.
I have a question. What if the plastics are wet?
We have to dry them first.
Oh, first.
Remember, we have a dryer. So the cylinder at the top is a dryer. It has nothing to do with the thermal breaking of bonds.
So we
just
drop it
remove
there,
moisture.
and then
So you just set it up at 110 degrees Celsius. It will dry everything. So
We also know that plastics melt at different temperatures, right? Different kind of plastic. So how do you manage that?
it's 450 degrees Celsius and you'll be good. You take the worst case scenario.
So my question is it preferred to have like the different categories? Let's say plastic, you process the plastic separated from, you have like different
If you
material,
want to.
paper or...
So let me answer that question a different way. I think it's not about segregation or no segregation. It's about what do you want? What do you want as an ROI, right? If you want the highest ROI, then of course you need to put pure plastic and tires.
Okay.
Period, right? But if you're getting rid of an issue that you have with, let's say, rail ties, they're a huge issue. You won't get a lot of diesel and graphite from that. You'll get a low-end graphite, but you're taking the solution out because the tipping fee on rail ties could be significantly higher than just regular garbage. So it all depends on what are you using it for. If it's really getting rid of an issue, then it's not relevant what your output is, because you're taking care of the issue, the feedstock. But your issue is really, I want my ROI to be the maximum. Then of course we'll say, hey, go and get only plastic and tires.
Definitely we are like, as a town of Okotoks, we get material from residential, from ICI, from different, so we are not controlling like the material that we get, so we need to resolve this issue.
Yeah. So I would say as a municipal model, you're more interested in the unit solving a problem, not not creating a revenue model on the other side.
But you're right. In terms of municipality waste, I mean, our aim would be to get rid of segregation too. But if you guys are doing black bins and the blue bins and the green bins, and even the blue bin, we know there's a lot of contamination. There again goes back, and somebody's segregating manually, or even optical, segregation. What are these we're doing these days? All those are costs. Somebody's paying for that, right? And we want to come back and say, hey, you don't have to do that.
What happens if the feedstock is contaminated? Like I'm thinking like chemical, pesticide, herbicide containers.
Medical.
Like, anything that's contaminated with what would consider a toxin. Is that like it ends up in the graphite, but then is your graphite toxic?
So in general, if we have no idea that it's in there, right, that is a potential of happening. But it also comes down to the temperature and what those materials are. If we know in advance that we're going to be getting some herbicides and specific materials, depending on what they are, we may do a chemical treatment to it. So example, if we have a ton of lead batteries that are coming in one batch, then we would put a treatment on that so we don't have to deal with that. If it's PVC, same thing. So there's carcinogens and stuff like that inside that PVC. We would put a special chemical treatment that we have mixed with it. It's not much that we put in there, and then that would deal with those problems.
Well, a good example is going to be creosote, obviously, in the rail ties, right? So as soon as we talk rail ties to anybody, it's the first question they ask. So the creosote just ends up in the waste stream, pretty much.
But it doesn't end up in the produced water.
No.
No. And are there any kind of emissions from the process?
So the system, the one that you guys have seen operating, that uses an electrical coil. So there is no combustion at all.
Right.
Okay. So then, therefore, no emission.
Yeah,
I
say,
know
what
you
about
had
with the
mentioned
diesel
if you
burner
use some of
systems?
the diesel, that
Correct,
then
it's
you would have
self-sustainable.
some kind of exhaust.
Yeah,
From-
so similar to
But-
oil and gas and stuff like that, they have certain scrubbers and things like that to deal with their emissions. So this, we do the same thing. And when you hear a lot of companies say that we are no emission, but there's a little bit of an asterisk there, right? It's because there's a regulated guideline of what you need to be under.
Of what
So long
counts.
as you're under that, that's when everybody likes to say no emission, right? We're no emission. So it's the same thing for us, right? But it's the same or less than that of an electric vehicle because of the way we do the scrubbers and stuff like that when we're using a burner system. The electric coil, completely different. And then we point to the landfill. Now what's going on at that landfill? And look at the emission that's coming off of this system. Which one makes more sense?
The gases that come out of landfills are much more potent than